well done, Joe. You really got the passion there going. I think you delivered that so well. I saw Dino here reaching for his pocket. Actually, reaching for my pocket for my But well done. That was very well delivered. Anybody got some questions? I mean, Patrick, that was passion. Come on, that was.
I love the way you ended the talk. I'm gonna start using that for all my presentations. It's great. Well, I guess I should say my name and not yours. But,
keep using my name. I think this is.
No, there's some good flair to that. I'll be excited about that. So one quick question. Again, this isn't my space, and this is rude to say in a room full of lawyers, and the lawyers are paying for all this tonight, so I apologize. But these are corporate lawyers and tech lawyers. They're not the evil trial bar. So I can ask this question. You know, you got all this data, and then you have a hiccup or a fire in your data center, and you lose it, and all of a sudden a customer is angry because you lost everything that they hold dear. I realize it depends on country, but
it's a standard coverage issue. Right? And the standard coverage is you get back the money you paid. You know, and now we have a solution for that. We have a thing that we call bonded storage, which I didn't get into here. It's only 2 minutes. Bonded storage will offer the ability to store your content in 2 independent vendors' data centers. So Nirvanix and S3, or FlexiScale and S3, or S3 in Europe and S3 in America. And that way you're insulated from a single point of failure. And of course, you pay more for that. There's a third string to our bow. We will incorporate a separate trustee company to manage that data. So that if we go pop, that trustee company makes the data available to you so you can get it back.
So is all of the data stored through one of your partner storage companies?
Absolutely, yes.
So you're not building any storage infrastructure?
No,
yourself?
I mean, the first time we did this business plan, we had a thing that said $1 million year 2 on a data center, and then Amazon S3 came along and just took all that cost out of the business, which was absolutely bloody fantastic.
How long will it take, you know, if you have your data stored, do you have access to it instantaneously?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost like a mirror image of on your desktop?
It's complete mirror image. The only barrier to entry is the molasses slow broadband connectivity that most of us have.
Anybody from the audience would like to ask a question? Yeah, we got a lot of hands up there. So the gentleman over here.
Probably don't need the microphone. One of the big problems that potentially I see is the issue of the fact that you have access to really an awful lot of information about a lot of different people. And there is constant concerns not only about the security of losing the information, but how that information is going to be protected such that there's not a temptation at some stage later to be able to do something with that data. I mean, knowledge is potential power, right? So anything that you have, and you're talking about not just what's on your hard drive anymore, but now cameras, phones, everything else, you really have quite an image of people, of a person's daily life, of a person's habits, everything else, that's coming, like or not, through your portal somehow. And how are you going to overcome the issue that people have a lot of concern about privacy and security?
We think the key value proposition for any service like this is that we don't touch your data at all. We don't mine it, we don't look at it. It's just literally take it up and stick it in and extract as much metadata as we can to give you value back. We don't aggregate the metadata in any way, and we think that's a key value proposition, that we don't mess with your data. And I think that's one of the reasons that a company like Google will find it very hard to enter this space, because people are naturally concerned about, my private stuff being used to generate an advertising stream. So that's why it's a subscription service. You're paying for us not to diddle with your data.
For the Americans, we'll translate diddle later. Any more questions? Yes, right down the back there.
Great, thank you. So as someone who works for a managed services company who you might be able to relate to, I'm curious if you have an enterprise offering to that extent. I've literally looked through probably about 24 different storage type of companies like yourself over the last 2 months alone, and I'm curious if you have an enterprise offering. And I also think that your redundant backup solution is brilliant. Your ability to communicate that to customers is going to be probably very, very difficult for you.
We don't do businesses. I've worked for a couple of enterprise companies, and it's just an unbelievable pain in the ass dealing with businesses. And I'll tell you why. Because when you take the data off the business, the first thing they say is, now who has access to this? And can we make sure the CFO has access to all this data? And I want to make sure I get access to all the PC data of the employee leaves. And can you integrate with our LDAP directory? And you know, it's just unbelievably painful. It turns into a consulting engagement. So we want, give us your credit card, give us your data, and you know, I never want to meet my customers. It's not because I don't want to meet them, it's just because I have so many I can't meet them all. But yeah, businesses are too hard. You know, somebody else, IBM's going to solve that problem for businesses, and good luck to them.
You don't mind me following up? One thing that we found is that, as everyone in this room would probably know, when you lose your data, let's say your hard drive crashes, and you're like, crap. You'll go and you'll spend $1,500 or $3,000 to get your hard drive back to you, right? But when you offer someone, you know, for $10 a month, I will have this backed up for you so that this never has to happen again. We found that like less than 1% of customers will say, yeah, I'll spend an extra $10 a month to have that backed up. So I'm more concerned on the marketing side, how you plan on getting over that hurdle in the consumer consciousness.
People look on backup as like, they look at it like insurance. It's wasted money until you have a catastrophe, but we're adding more value than that. We're giving you accessibility of your data, the ability to understand from data where content is. It's going to become the place where you live with your data. It's not just burying it on a desert island, as I said. I think people do find it very difficult to justify, especially home users, sitting down every Friday, pressing the button to do backup work, if it's automated, making sure the backup happens, because they see no value to that process. So our job is to make sure that they can derive some real value from what they do with their content while the backup is happening.
Great job. Thank you very much.